So, Felice, we are doing this as an emergency podcast because it's been a heavy, heavy month of trauma, disaster, just murder, most horrid, rape, everything. It's just been an awful, awful, awful month to be a woman, I
Yeah.
think, in the
Yeah.
world, on the planet.
I think a shit show is I would accurately describe it as. Yeah.
Yep.
Depths, the deepest, darkest depths of hell, I feel like some of the news stories have crawled out of, and some of the men that have come with it. But yes, it has been a terrible month. And we're going to get into it, but we're going to try and keep it a little bit light, aren't we, at times?
Yes, we
We're
are
going to bring some
trying.
dark humour.
Yeah, well, it's either that or we just like lock ourselves in the broom cupboard and just stay there because
Yeah, yeah. The rage has been very real, though. I know you felt it.
hmm
I have been full of the female rage
yes, you put a post out,
this
didn't
month.
you, this month?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I put a few out.
we're laughing because literally before we came on the podcast, like let's try and keep it this month because it's going to be a little bit of a time before we between recording and putting it out into the world. So we're trying to keep it very sort of loosey in terms of time frames. But we'll just say September so far
Yes.
for us. It's the 13th we're recording this on, has been just lots.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on in the world. I think, yeah, some of the most horrendous stories that I've read. Um, and what has come with those stories are the usual responses from men. And another one thing we're going to talk about is the lack of response from men as well.
Yeah, the silent majority.
Yes, the silent majority that insist that they are the good men and believe that because they aren't out here raping people, then they are part of the solution.
No. And this is how I think this is how we bonded, wasn't it?
Yes.
Over putting posts out that, it's all about equality, feminism, not apologizing, not saying should. Every time I put something out about Taylor Swift, my LinkedIn goes completely mental. We are
Yep.
huge fans of Taylor,
Yes, we
and
are.
and just the amount of shit she has to put up with on a daily basis. Honestly, I hope she doesn't look at any social media or newspapers or anything.
No, I think I mean, obviously she's got a whole team filtering out the worst of it.
Mm.
Um, I know that she does see stuff, but it was only a few years ago that she retreated from the world. She disappeared from public view for like 2 years. She had she talks about that in Miss Americana, the film, and she said her mental health was just in the toilet. She had been dealing with criticism and misogyny and being the butt of people's lies, and it was just she said it was just too much, and she considered quitting. She
Mm.
considered jacking it all in, and then she lifted herself out, remembered who the fuck she was,
Mm.
and came back with one of the best, I think, clapback albums that I've ever heard. And look at her now. But
Yep,
yes, oh my goodness, do people like to tear her down,
absolutely.
especially men who disagree with her.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
one particular specimen.
So yes, Elon Musk really doesn't like her, does it? Oh, I don't know whether he likes her or he just desperately wants attention from her. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but just like keep your name out of, out of your mouth. Like, stop it. Leave her
Yes,
alone.
like,
You're not
how
you're
dare
not
he
clever.
even no, no, how dare he even utter our goddess's name? Like, how dare he? And then especially to talk about her like that,
Hmm.
to insinuate, I guess for anyone that's not listening, the who's not seen the tweet, he offered to impregnate her
Yeah.
with a child.
I know.
And And I think what's interesting to me is that that is always where they go.
Yeah.
It's
It's
always a threat of
rape.
sexual violation, dominance. It always goes there. And you and I saw it for exactly what it was, which is, men trying to control women and silence them. But a lot of the men folk didn't agree, and they, like to tell us that we just needed to get a sense of humour, that it was
Oh
just a
yes.
joke.
So
It's
we're
just a joke.
gonna form a girl band ourselves, I think, called the Misandrists, because that's what I've been accused of. And I was like, am I? Am I? When I think this is the difference between us and those men. If we get called something, we will like look at it critically and evaluate it and ask if there's any truth potentially in what
Hmm.
what we've been called. And then it's like, then we realize that absolutely no truth. It's all absolute bollocks. And again, it's like, if you've run out of things to say, if you've run out of an argument, what happens? You go back to, I know, I'm an 8-year-old in the schoolyard and I'm calling you names.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it just gets even more ridiculous. But I think often and just to come back to that misandrous point, I'm going to put my hands up and go, I think I actually am sometimes. But I think my misandry comes out in the face of the worst kind of misogyny.
Hmm.
Depending on the extent of what somebody has said, I'm very much a I'll match your energy person. So,
Yes.
some days the high road is closed and I decide I'm going to be a menace to society when these men show up. I'm just like, I'm not going to be the bigger person today. I'm going to be petty. I'm going to match you, match your energy. I'm going to meet you at your level. Let's get into it. But generally speaking, when I'm speaking on the topic and not responding to these kind of comments, I'm not a misandrist at heart,
No.
or at
But you
least I
can
try not to
perform
be.
a Sandry on demand when people need it.
Yeah, I mean, give the men what they want. They come in, they're expecting it. I don't want to disappoint them. So I'm
But
like,
you
you
come
already
in
think
so
I'm a
sweetly.
misandrist. Oh, it's so sweet. Sometimes I come in sweetly. Sometimes I come in and I'm all like act all naive and go, oh, please explain it to me because I'm such a dumb girl. Um, or I'll come in with just like, I'm going to stir the pot. Like the guy that, I started correcting his spelling for him.
Yes, he
I
didn't enjoy
rewrote
that.
his post and made suggestions for how it could have had more impact if he'd written it a certain way. Yeah, he didn't like that. So, but it's never actually about the thing they're saying. There's no point trying to argue with them about the point they're making. And I see other women doing that,
Oh, trying
getting
to educate.
defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to educate and trying to respond. And it's like, don't waste your breath, because their response will just move you on to the next thing and you are forever playing catch up with those
Yes.
people, and they're not here to have a debate or have a conversation. They're here
Mm.
just to tell you to be quiet.
Yep, trying to shut you up. And
Yeah.
I get this, and we've talked about this before offline, but not online actually, on LinkedIn. And people around us are quite worried about the people we are attracting into our lives through
Yeah.
speaking out about the terrible things that happen in the world. And yeah, it's I understand why they're worried, because we have multiple examples of women who have spoken out and random people have murdered them.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the reality, isn't it? For women that speak about gender equality and other social movements,
Mm.
other injustices, um, are do make themselves a target. And there's no point pretending that that's not the case. It's not a safe thing for women to do. It's not a
No.
safe thing for women to do to even be in the public domain, even if you're not talking about those particular topics.
No.
It's very dangerous. Women who are out there just being pop stars or actresses, not getting involved in
Politicians.
politics. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, people are stalking them, sending them death threats, rape threats, saying the most awful things about them online. publishing their home address, you know, threatening their kids, and then they're just out here trying to make a living. So yes, for the women that do speak out, it's not a safe place.
No.
And yes, my family do worry about it sometimes.
Yeah,
they worry about what might happen.
And I completely understand where they're coming from, because they want us to, you know, stay safe. But by us staying safe, it gives the message that we need to keep quiet in order to stay safe, and that the world's not going to change if we're all being good girls and not talking and not speaking out and not challenging these dickheads, or blocking them, which is now my new favorite hobby. Block, 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 block.
Block, block, block.
Because I was like, oh no, we need to still engage them, you know, that naivety, like we can change their minds.
No. There are men that you can. I find that men generally fall into 3 categories. They are already actively involved, they're working, they are educating themselves, they're following other creators, and they may even be creating their own content around it. And they're working in that field, actively supporting. They're not always getting it right. But then we as women don't always get it right either. We, you know, have our own conditioning, our own good girl programming that we need to shift. And then there are, you know, men at the bottom of that list, who will never engage, who believe all of the incel stuff, and they believe that women should just shut up and get back in the kitchen. And that sexism and you know, gender equality has gone too far, and you know, women should be grateful, and what are you still banging on about?
Get back in the kitchen.
Or in the bedroom. Either one is fine by them. And so as far as they're concerned, they will just actively try and derail every conversation. And then there are the largest group, which is the ones in the middle, that if you ask them, they will agree that, you know, violence against women is bad and women shouldn't be raped, and you know, and the gender pay gap, a lot of them disagree that even exists, but generally speaking,
it's like, why? How can you have an argument about the gender pay gap? When it's like,
just don't believe in it.
It's like, no, it's like, I don't believe it's Santa Claus, like I don't believe it.
It's not like Santa, it's not, or God.
Bonkers.
Yes, and it's that group, they are the largest. The other two, the ones at the bottom, they're the loudest. But the largest group are the ones that just tick along. It's you know, unless it impacts someone that they love directly, it's not part of their everyday experience. It's not in their consciousness. They'll read a post and they go, oh, another woman banging on about, like it's a problem. What am I supposed to do about it then? That's the when you do get the response.
Teach me.
Yes. It's either teach me, or what do you want me to do about it? Like if I see a rapist, I'll beat them up. Oh, that one just kills me every single time. We had one of those, didn't we, this week on a recent post. We had one of those and he was like, oh, if I put him in a room with a rapist, he'll never do it again. Big, tough, strong man. Oh, you know, I'll beat him up. Apart from that, what do you want me to do about it? What am I supposed to do about it?
And
I'm like, love the idea of you beating up all the rapists, because they're totally out here just outing themselves. And of course, we all know that all rapists end up in prison. So we know who they are.
It's like, my brain went, no, they don't. No, it's like,
that's my sarcasm.
Okay, so I was like,
because we know exactly who they are, don't we? We women and society, we know who.
Because it's always the bad, you know, the bad guys that look like rapists, and not, as we found out in Avignon, that in fact it's neighbours and doctors and police people and prison guards and butchers and bakers and candlestick makers. It's literally, it could be absolutely anyone.
And sometimes the very people that are paid to protect us.
Well, let's just say 2 words: the Met. So yeah.
Yeah. And do you know there's I think domestic violence rates are at some of the highest levels amongst men who are in the police force and the army.
Yeah.
A lot of people say it's partly because of the pressures of the job. So if you already have individuals that are not dealing with their emotions very well
Mm.
and are not capable of working through them, and then you put them in a very high stress situation, it makes sense that those numbers will be higher. But then I always think, can you imagine the partners of people who are employed by the Met? Where are they going for support? Where are they going for justice?
And I think there's a level of attraction in some of these professions as well, that you get unreasonable levels of power,
Yeah.
and there's almost a invincibility, because, you know, again, who are you going to tell? It's like Dave, what's the Dave, isn't it? Dave, who I go drinking with, he's in charge of all of the, you know, there's the domestic violence. And what are you going to tell Dave, that I'm beating you up after, you know, a football match?
Yeah. And you see the evidence as well, that the reports are often covered up, they close ranks around their own. Sarah Everard's killer had, you know, so many outstanding complaints against him. And it sometimes feels like those organizations should hold their staff to higher standards than anywhere else. But, you know, I think, and again, we see this in other businesses at the top, especially, that men close ranks. And we've seen this in the media, where men have just been able to get away with this, you know, over and over and over again. But in most regular organizations, if you are just, you know, a factory worker, or, you know, you're working in McDonald's, you know, you're one of the grunts, which, you know, in terms of the police force, that's where you are. You're out there, you're active duty. I don't think you'd have that many complaints and still have a job.
No.
But yet we're seeing this. I can't remember the exact number now, but there was a report that came out talking about the number of active police staff that have more than one complaint against them for sexual assault, some kind of some kind of violent crime. And it's a crazy number. It was a crazy number, something like 20,000 or something.
That's bonkers.
Active reports, yeah. And they're just still in their jobs.
Yeah, so I'm a part of I can't remember what it's called though, but the UN Women UK group, and there's the 16 days of activism coming up in November, December, and they shared some slides in terms of, you know, what kind of thing can we be messaging about, what can we be like showing the world. And I think it was either 20 or 25% of all recorded crimes in the UK have a sexual element to them.
Yeah, it's 20% of all crime. All crime that's being reported falls under violence against women, with domestic violence, sexual assault, and instances of sexual harassment. Crime reports sexual harassment has gone up 37% since 2018, which is a huge number. And the age has dropped. So they're now seeing more perpetrators age 11 upwards. So that sort of bottom age has dropped to 11.
Brilliant.
Something like 40% of all schoolgirls have experienced some kind of sexual harassment at school, and that's kids.
Kids against
So,
kids.
yeah, kids against kids. It's getting worse.
Female teachers are getting it as well.
Yeah.
It's I would say, in your opinion, is it porn?
I don't think it's just porn, because you think porn has been around forever. I think it's the ease of access to it.
Yeah.
But I think porn is a reflection of how we see women. But I do think it feeds back in terms of the porn that's created by adult men who are fulfilling the wants and desires of adult men, is then perpetuating that narrative to younger men. Because that's what they're seeing. They're seeing that before they have any experience of a real woman, a real person. So they come into relationships with these ideas and expectations, and not just for their partner, but for themselves as well. And so they try and reenact what they're seeing in pornography. And there's a report that came out in France last year, and they analysed all of the pornography that was available on the major websites globally. And they were looking at French, the French attitudes, which is interesting given what's come out, to sex. And they identified 90% of all adult content contains some level of sexual violence, humiliation, degrading of women, torture. So there's only 10% of what's out there doesn't have some element of degrading women for sexual pleasure. And that, I'm not surprised, but I guess I'm still a bit shocked just how much, because again, these sites, they create the content that people want to watch. So I think porn is fulfilling that desire. And I think as people become desensitized to it, they want more of it. But I also think a lot of this is the backlash to women raising their, women raising. And I think because of that, a lot of men feel left behind. And instead of stepping up, they want to tear women back down. And, men are, it's just, they've just not caught up. And the way we raise boys hasn't changed. So we still raise boys to believe that all they need to do is focus on being their best version of themselves when it comes to getting a job, earning money, and that by doing that, they are owed the attention of women, that women owe them by being able to provide a paycheck, and they don't have to develop any of their other skills and parts of their personality and emotional intelligence, and they're not encouraged to. And of course, they grow up and they go, well, I'm a good guy, nice guy, I'm the nice guy. And they're not be like, why won't these bitches sleep with me? Kind of
it's like it's like reflect that question back at you.
Yeah. And it's like, with the way we talk about the male loneliness epidemic as well, like, we kind of like point the finger at men. I can't remember who said it, but there's that quote that's like a compass points north, a man's accusing finger will always find a woman. And I see the way women are like, they're like called to solve it, to solve the male loneliness epidemic. And it's like, why? We're not lonely. Like,
no,
we're cool. We're chilling. We're chilling over here
with our pets.
Yeah. And I just think men want women to do all the work. They want women to fix it all.
Yeah.
And actually, if they turned that in on themselves and they work together and they actually listen to women, like I have no, when women say, men say to me, like, if you should spend more of your time actually helping men and not just, slating them. I'm like, it's not my job to educate men. It's not. Like, I would rather spend that time lifting other women up and having that conversation amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a futile exercise, I find. But however, if a man genuinely wants to engage, I will. I'll sit down and talk to them if they're open, they want to hear it. And sometimes you see those kind of light bulb moments and you think, they're on their way. They're on their way. They've understood some of it. But for the most part, they don't actually want to change. They want us to stop being
victims.
Stop having standards and stop demanding of them things that we offer. Which I always think is crazy when women offer so much and men are like, can you still keep offering all of that, but just not expect me to bring the same level? I'm not capable.
Yeah, it's
And
fascinating, really.
Mm.
Just that complete lack of self-awareness. And if you think about it,
Yes.
we'll look at like, you know, that generational conditioning again. I know that for like our grandparents, there was very little divorce, there was very little well, divorce. What do I say? There was very little divorce. It's very little money,
Yes.
but there's very little and divorce, and women didn't have any rights and all of that sort of stuff at that point. You
Yeah.
couldn't own a home, you could get sacked for being pregnant, yeah, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But literally in the olden days, our grandparents' days, to find a wife, all you had to do was have a job, really.
Well, women had no real way of taking care of themselves. So, you know, if they wanted, you know, get married and have children, was the only career option open to women. And if you didn't have those things, you'd end up with, you know, homeless, with no money, or a burden to, you know, to your family members. So for a lot of women, they just didn't have a choice.
No.
And, you know, let's say women couldn't even open their own bank account until the 70s. And, you know, it wasn't that long ago. That wasn't that long ago. So you've got, you know, literally decades, centuries of women being raised like cattle and sold off to the highest bidder. And, you know, for a lot of women, it didn't even matter if their husband was nice to you. That was a bonus. You know, if your husband didn't beat you up and wasn't nasty to you, that was a bonus. But it was expected that women would just put up with it, didn't talk about it. It's just what happened. I think it was only the 90s, I think, wasn't it, that rape was even, it had to even become illegal within marriage.
Yeah.
So up until the 90s, you could rape your wife all day, every day, and nothing could be done about it.
That's why they've removed obey from the wedding vows.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
And we talk about this as if it's in the past, and we know that there are countries in the world that it's absolutely not in the past. And I firmly believe that none of us are free until all of us are free.
Yeah, that's how I feel. There was my feminist rage comes from the global exploitation and oppression of women. Yes, I talk, you know, I what I talk about is often what's happening, you know, in the Western world and in the US and the UK. But what's happening out there is yeah, it's there's no words to describe the feeling that it brings up. And like you, the job won't be finished until none of those women have to go through that and experience it. I don't think that's, you know, we're not going to see that in our lifetime, let's face it.
No, we're not going to see the gender pay gap close, are we? So
no, we're not even going to see that close, let alone what's happening to women across the world. Their rights slowly being stripped away. And you know, what we're seeing in the US is just incredible.
no.
That decline in such a short space of time. And it makes you realize how fragile women's rights actually are.
Yeah.
How fragile we all are. Because until we are either equal or a majority sitting in those rooms, there will always be, our rights will always be by the grace of men allowing them.
At risk.
And that it will always be at risk. And so I get why some people feel like we're just banging on about it all the time. Always talking about
bore off with the
equality.
feminism.
Yeah, oh my God, here we go. Not everything's about gender. You know, you get that. You know, you get that quite a lot as well.
Oh yeah.
Why do you have to make everything a gender issue? And I go, because it actually is, but it's become so normalized that we don't see it as a gender issue. We don't see it as sexist. Like coming back to where we started, Elon Musk's tweet. We're so used to men making jokes about sexually assaulting women that it's just a joke. Just a joke. And people say it's got nothing to do with actually raping a woman. And I go, but it does.
Yeah, it's the bottom of the pyramid stuff that leads to, we start with the banters and the jokes. And I was absolutely ecstatic when they got rid of page 3. I grew up with university mates who had like naked pictures of Gail Porter, bless her,
Yeah.
on their walls. So, when I used to go into
Yep.
their rooms, I was like, oh, hello, full nude Gail Porters and
Yep.
Jordan and I was like, yay, we're getting rid of that sort of stuff. But it's like almost we got rid of page 3 and then the world went to shit because it just
I
came
mean,
at us
yeah,
from every other angle.
it's everywhere. And of course, now with AI,
Mm.
it
None of
doesn't
us are
have,
safe.
no, it doesn't even, have to be pictures that you've volunteered for or consented to being taken and then exploited. They are everywhere. And again, the prevalence of these, and this is where I get really stuck with some of these arguments,
Yeah.
is, and I wrote a post about it last week, is the lawmakers are not catching up and protections are not being put in place and they're also not being enforced. So the online spaces are the wild, wild west when it comes to women being exploited and harassed. And the people that could do something about it just don't care enough.
No, because they're
to
all
bother.
run by old white dudes.
Men who are more interested in making money.
Yeah.
And there's these websites that, that nudify pictures. So you can upload any picture and they will strip the clothes off and make that person nude. The only restriction they have is that you can't do it to pictures of children. However, the systems that they have in place to protect that, it's just not worth the paper they're written on, it's just full of holes. But to my mind, it's like, why would you even want that technology? I can, they talk, and so even the conversations around protection on these websites, we're doing what we can to ensure that people aren't, using real pictures, like, just take someone's picture off of Instagram and upload it. We're doing what we can. And I'm like, I can't think of a legitimate use. I cannot think of a single legitimate reason for those sites existing. Just ban them, make them illegal, because it doesn't matter where that picture's come from, that person is not consented to anyone creating a naked image of them.
No.
So just ban the sites, just delete them. I literally cannot think of a reason why you would want to keep them alive. So instead of everyone arguing about how to put
How to make it less dangerous.
Yeah, how to make it like less. Of course, people are going to use it for that. Like,
yes, let's give toddlers knives and guns. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, totally. And of course, men are making pictures of young girls and then blackmailing them and threatening them
and coercing them into all sorts of things.
Into more photos, videos, or just blackmailing them for money. That's going on all over the place. And again, massive increase. It's AI. You think, and this is sometimes when you get a bit more philosophical about it and you think, all of this technology, what problems could we solve in the world? You know what I mean? If all this energy went towards like what could we solve if we put all of this energy into using this technology for good instead of sexually exploiting, harassing women? Like there's so much. You think about the energy that goes into all of these activities, trolling women, making AI pictures of them, blackmailing them, threatening them, drugging them, just seeking out other men that want to do it in these forums. Like, imagine if all of that energy went into something more productive. Like, where would we be as a society?
Yeah. I know. It's like Elon again. All the money in the world. And what does he want to do? Build rockets to go to Mars.
Oh, well, you know what the rocket is, obviously.
Penis.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is.
Penis.
Build his big penis, throw it up into space to show that his penis is bigger than everybody else's penis.
And he can have sex with space whenever he wants to.
Ugh.
I know.
but not Taylor Swift.
No, not never, ever,
She's
ever.
she's not touching him with a 10-foot barge pole.
Okay, so I think we'll probably end up having you back on because I could talk to you literally all day, every day. I was like,
I
have I
know,
got
there's
any
so
wine
much.
downstairs? It is Friday
Yeah.
afternoon after all. Um,
Yeah, there's so much I want to say.
I know. So what I've been trying to do is to get my guests to come away with a a question for our watchers slash listeners, the audience, to think about. So what could be your question or provocation or thing to think about? What would that be?
Um, oof, that's a big one.
I know.
Like, what would I ask?
What the fuck is actually wrong with you people?
Um, can I pose a question for men? Do you have many male listeners, or is it just mostly women?
Well, actually, I looked on the Spotify and it's probably I think it's 75-25 actually. So, but then again, I know my dad's been listening to the first episodes because he's nice that
Oh,
way.
bless him. Yes. I think one of the things that really bugs me, this is for women actually, one of the things that really bugs me, and I totally understand where it comes from, is when women respond or try and get men's attention by saying things like, this could be, what if this was your daughter or your wife or your mother? And I see red every single time, and I know where
Mm.
it comes from, and I know what we're trying to do. We're trying to, we're trying to bring out empathy and compassion in men, because by relating it to something that they care about, which even in itself is problematic. If
Hmm.
you can't show, if you're not capable of having empathy for another human being that isn't related to you, there is
Well, you,
something wrong.
yeah, you don't own or belong to, yes.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you. Because I think empathy and compassion for our fellow humans is actually an ingrained human ability. I think it is something that we are born with. It's something we see in children.
And the
And with
opposite, and it's a learned behavior, having the
yes,
opposite.
yeah, it's a learned behavior. So I understand the desire for it, but I also think it's really important that I think it's really important that we treat men as if they are capable of better. And I do believe this. And even though, when I'm, if I'm creating content or I'm talking about men and I'm going, this is this, and I sound like I'm putting men down, I do actually think it's really important. The reason I get frustrated is because I'm fully aware that they are capable of so much more. They're
Mm.
capable of being, fully emotional, well-adjusted human beings that support each other, have strong friendships, have strong relationships, um, and put good stuff out into the world. I think they are capable of all those things. And I think sometimes we pander to them a little bit as if they're not. We talk to them as if they're children.
Yeah.
Um, and I
We
and
don't
I get
hold
it.
them to the same standards.
No, we kind of treat them as if, of course, they can't do this, so we need to, we need to hold their hands. And the flip side of that is also why I'm quite in your face and gobby about my opinions, and people try and say to me, I hear what you're saying, but I think it would just kind of go down better if you said it a bit nicer. I'm like,
Tone policing.
but yeah, for who? And I was like, I'm sorry, you're asking me to make the actual murder of women more palatable for men. Should I
Yeah.
put some rainbows and flowers around it? Um, so I talk about it the way I think it should be talked about. And if men say, "Oh, you just said it a bit too angrily or a bit too aggressively," I'm like, I think I'm going to put that back where it belongs with
Yes.
you.
This is me toned down.
Yeah, you it's me toned down. So yeah, so I sometimes want to say to women, we again, because we as women are conditioned to tiptoe around men's egos and make things all nice and comfortable for them instead of saying the things that we really want to say.
Mm.
So I would just pose that question to women the next time you say that to men, just take a minute and think about what you're actually saying to them. You're giving them permission to only give a crap about something if it affects somebody that they know.
Yep. But I wonder how many women have thought this week, counted their lucky stars that they go to sleep at night without worrying that they've got a husband, partner who's drugging them and inviting loads of people, random strangers off the internet to rape them.
But again, though, that shouldn't be something women are grateful for.
I know.
But they will be. And this thing, and when the bar is in hell,
That's, yeah.
Anything, any gesture, men who don't rape are the good guys. And I think for men, it's important for them to really sit with that and ask themselves, is that enough?
Mm.
I'm not going around raping women. Does that make me a good guy? Or is this just that's basic human decency? Because you know what women are not doing? They're not going out here murdering people and raping people and torturing people and it's shooting people, shooting mass shootings in shopping centers and schools. Yes, it does happen, but there will always be a certain number of crimes that happen. But to the extent, and I would also say that I think women have got a lot more reason to be that angry.
Oh, God, yeah. It's like, yeah.
I mean, if anyone's going to be pushing back, I feel like it should be women.
Yeah. And I always say that's like it's a good job we only want equality and not revenge.
Yeah, yeah. And also, if men are interested in giving equality of opportunity, then maybe women should start thinking about evening the score in the other areas. Why aren't more women going out and killing men? And why don't women, if we're all for equality, aren't we? And men don't think it needs to change. Like, why are we only looking for equality on the good stuff? Yeah, obviously I'm joking.
Yes.
Obviously I'm joking. But
no, it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
And
I just think that if to support women, it's not enough. It's the same with, Black Lives Matter, and the message around that was it's not enough to just not be racist. I'm not racist, so I could just go about my life feeling good about myself and not getting involved. It's not my problem. And it's the same with women. When you ask men if they're feminists, this one, I'm a humanist. Have you had that one? I'm a humanist. I believe that all people are equal. And I go,
yeah,
good for you, Chad.
Yes.
Good for you, Chad.
Yes.
Thanks for your time. I'm a humanist, yeah. I
It's
just
like
think
you
that
believe all people are equal. Open a newspaper.
Yeah, then I believe all people are equal. I treat them all equally. And what we talk about, the way people are treated in work and their job, and why it's great to see a woman vice president. And just fucking loving all of that at the moment. And then the men will come out and go, it's about the best person for the job. It's about the best person for the job. It's about the best person for the job. We shouldn't care about gender. They go, yeah, because that's gone really well so far. It's all I mean, as far as I can tell, it's always the best person for the job is hired in every situation.
It's more often than not in the senior roles a man.
Of course it's not. And that's interesting because in your book you talk about that, don't you, right at the beginning. And I heard that on your podcast that women and girls actually do far better academically at school. They achieve more. So then what's happening to those women before they why are they not soaring in their careers?
Because work was built by men for men. And we've had to adapt to it. It has not adapted to us.
Yeah. I saw a quote the other day that I really liked as well that said, if women were able to sleep their way to the top, there would be more women at the top.
Yes, because we could be good at that shit.
Yeah. People like to go, when they see a woman at the top and they go, she slept away there. And I go, if women were actually doing that, there would absolutely be more women at the top.
Yeah.
Why aren't there?
Yeah. And also the question is, why would they need to?
And also, who are the men that are bargaining sex for promotions? We never like to talk about that, do we? We talk about the women. We talk about the women that do OnlyFans. We talk about the women that do porn. We talk about the women who may sleep their way to the top or sleep with a man for the job or the promotion or the role or whatever it is. We like to slag those women off. But we don't want to talk about the men that buy the porn and subscribe to OnlyFans and are offering women promotions or gatekeeping promotions in exchange for sex. We don't want to talk about those, do we? Let's just slag
and
the
then when we
women off.
do, all hell breaks loose, because we then find all of these men that do it.
Yeah. I mean, they're everywhere. It does feel like you can't have heroes anymore.
No.
I don't have every single one of my childhood heroes has been outed.
Not Tom Hanks.
Not Tom Hanks, no.
And Keanu Reeves.
No. Honestly, I think if anything were to come out about Keanu Reeves, I think that would be it. That would be my last shred of faith in humanity. I'm hanging on to him because he is just wonderful. He's wonderful.
The big love to Keanu and Tom Hanks, of course.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Honestly, I could talk to you all day, all evening, until tomorrow. We could talk all day. I'm sure you've got loads of things to do in your life. So thank you so much.
We could do like a marathon podcast one weekend or something.
24
we just
hours.
go like, see how long we go. I reckon we could do it, you know.
Just live stream it.
Yeah.
I think so. We just invite people in.
Yeah.
Excellent.
The Misandrists.
On the list. Call it the Misandrists. I'm sure there's already a podcast, let's face it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been my pleasure.